Howdy folks, I'm Hedonistic Hydra, hysterically hissing at horrible henchmen.
I'm Amber.
And here are more horrible henchmen for us to hiss at. Can you blame us? They tried cutting off our head. Let's get started. What a headache. Alright folks, then our first letter is titled, Am I a Jerk for Not Naming My Son What I Agreed to with His Father? Sorry this is a long post, and I'm using a throwaway to keep the drama out of my normal account. Nice things like cats, memes, pop culture, etc. About a year ago, I found out that I was pregnant with my now ex. We'd been together for 2 years already and spoke about marriage and the future. So a baby was a happy surprise that would come earlier than expected. Early on, we started talking about names and we agreed on a name that if it was a girl, but when it came to boy names, my ex insisted that we follow his family tradition. For the past few generations, every first male of the next generation was named Barrett, fake name for privacy. His great-grandfather was a Barrett. His grandfather was a Barrett. His uncle and brothers were all Barretts. No offense to anyone reading this named Barrett, but it's not a name that I would ever pick. But it was important to my partner at the time. Well, a few months into my pregnancy, I started having some minor complications. Nothing major or worrying, but as a first-time mom, I was very anxious about everything not going exactly right. Maybe the anxiety affected our relationship, I don't know, but there started to be some tension. At about 5 months, my ex demanded a DNA test. This was really hurtful and ridiculous. I'm an introvert and a homebody. When I wasn't at work, I was with my ex. There would be no opportunity to cheat. I told him that I'll happily arrange for a DNA test once the baby is born. But he insisted on one in utero because he needed to know before he invested any more time into the baby. I told him that I understand that it's low risk, but there's already some complications and I don't want to add in any additional risk. So I wanted to wait until after birth. He took this as me stalling and trying to emotionally trap him after the baby is born. We broke up, he ghosted me. Every message, every ultrasound, every invitation to an appointment was left unread. I stopped after a little while, and I didn't inform him when I went into labor, and I didn't inform him when I gave birth. I was ready to do this alone, and I have a great village with my friends and family. Well, I had a son, and I named him what I wanted to name him, and he has my last name. His mother reached out to me about 2 months ago and asked to meet her grandson. The visit went well, and I always thought that she was a lovely woman, and if she can have a good relationship with me and my son, I would welcome it. She asked if she could visit regularly, once a month. She lives 2 hours away. And I said only under one condition, that she takes a DNA test to show that she's related and thus proves that my ex is the father. To no one's surprise, she's his grandmother. She clearly told my ex about it, and he called last week asking to meet his son. I agreed. The meeting was awkward, and he asked about getting back together, and I told him that will never happen. He then said that in order to be in my son's life, I needed to change his first and last name to his real name. I told him absolutely not. I reminded him that he abandoned his child. My son is going to be of my last name and not my ex's last name. And the only family tradition that he would ever be party of are my family's last names. He called me a selfish bee for ruining this tradition over a mental health crisis. I told him that it's pretty convenient that his mental health crisis made him disappear when he could no longer deny being a father, and my son's name will stay the same, and for him to not even try to make Barrett some kind of nickname. Well, the night of his visit, his mother called and told me that he's really upset and maybe I could think about changing my son's legal name. I told her that his son's happiness hasn't been my concern for over 6 months, and he lost the right to make my son part of his tradition when he abandoned him. I don't think that I'm wrong, but my sister said that I probably could have articulated my side differently and been less confrontational. My mom also said that I likely made repairing the relationship more difficult with what I said, so am I the jerk? All right, folks, what do you think?
No, not the jerk. I mean, he abandoned OP during a very vulnerable time when she needed a lot of support. And he doesn't get to come and waltz back in now after being absentee for so long and just be like, oh, this is my kid now, I'm taking everything over.
Yeah.
A good parent would be less fussed about the child's name and more concerned about getting to know the kid. It seems like he just wants to make this kid his little legacy.
Well, also the whole accusing OP of cheating,
Mm-hmm.
accusing all this, and then he has the audacity to ask OP if they want to get back together.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There's just so many red flags with this guy that is just absurd. And I'm glad that OP stood their ground and said, no, we're not going to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
And look, this is his decision. If he doesn't want to be in the kid's life, that's on him, right? And so OP shouldn't feel any guilt about that at all. What they're asking is not a reasonable demand. This kid has been named this for a couple of months now, and that's really what this boils down to. If he wanted to stay in the name, then he should have stuck around and went through the pregnancy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was just insulting. I wouldn't have blamed OP for breaking up with him, period.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, he's being very entitled here and being very rude.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think about the mom when she said, well, he's really upset, maybe?
I mean, I think the mom just needs to knock it off. She should just be thankful that OP is letting her be in her grandson's life.
Yeah.
Because that is not owed to her, and recognize that her son did something seriously wrong. Like, I don't understand why she's not upset at her son for abandoning OP.
Yeah.
Like, she needs to start blaming the right party and telling him that he is dealing with the consequences of his actions.
Exactly. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Fire LaCroix says, not the jerk. He forfeited his right to influence your son's name when he abandoned you both. Him regretting it now doesn't change that. And OP replies, exactly my feelings. And Leah Jardis says, not the jerk. You don't want him in your son's life, but get some court-awarded child support. And OP replies, I've considered not even bothering with child support. I earn a good enough living that I can do it on my own. I don't want my ex to think that he is owed anything just because he pays a few bucks a month. And Imontis says, not the jerk, you saw him for the person that he is. And OP replies, thank you. I really don't feel like I was in the wrong here, but my mom and sister's comments definitely made me rethink it. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for telling my husband to keep in the guest room after he kept joking about how our newborn son isn't his? I'm a 29-year-old female and my husband, a 31-year-old male, had our first baby 6 weeks ago. Since day 3, he's been making jokes our son isn't his because the baby has dark hair and brown eyes, and he's blonde with blue eyes. He'll say things like, guess the milkman came by, or the Postie's genes are strong, in front of his mates and family. I told him privately a few times to knock it off. I am knackered from the lack of sleep, and I'm still recovering, and it just makes me feel like rubbish. He says that I'm being too sensitive and that it's just dad humor. Well, last weekend at his mom's, he said it again. Everyone went quiet and I nearly started crying. When we got home, I told him to sleep in the guest room until he gives me a proper apology and stops. He says that I'm punishing him in his own house and that I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. Am I the jerk here? Is it just a harmless teasing or is it a bit of a red flag? How do I get through to someone who thinks this is funny? Because I really don't think it is. All right, folks, what do you think?
No, absolutely not the jerk. And this is a major red flag if he will not listen to you. Like, this was a red flag to begin with. Like, that's not something to joke about. But the fact that he keeps bringing up, my guess is that there's some suspicion in there that he's trying to paint on OP. And I don't know if this is a relationship worth staying in. It would be, you need to talk to him and let him know for once and for all how serious this is to you. I mean, kind of the petty side of me was, but I would just like leave him before this, but it was like, anytime he says that, you can be like, oh, is this like, you admit, are you projecting here? Is somebody confessing to, their improprieties? But like, that's not going to make anything go well. I don't know what the good answer is.
Well, I think couples counseling for starters, right? I mean, I think that hopefully he is just really joking and has a weird sense of humor about things. But there's a old saying that every joke has a grain of truth in it or something like that. Or, someone feels like there's a grain of truth in every joke that they make.
Well, my big concern here is he seems to have zero respect for OP. Because even if you make a bad joke, you need to apologize and not do it again.
Yeah.
And he's insisting that OP, this is just my sense of humor. You just have to deal with it.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I'm saying, like, maybe couples counseling could help him come to understand that this is actually hurtful and that it's not a joke. But he shouldn't be making these kinds of jokes because, again, a joke is funny to everyone involved. What's the joke here? Haha, you cheated on me? That's not a joke. That's a accusation, right? And I think that he's just waiting for OP to have enough of him so that OP can let him off the hook and he doesn't have to be a dad. I don't know what he wants out of the situation, right? But it doesn't seem like the kind of thing that you say to somebody that you want to stay in a relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. And Purple Mel 75 says, he would be sleeping in the shed if he was my husband. And OP replies, if we had one, he would be in there. And Direct Top 2599 says, not the jerk. Your husband is being an annoying jerk. Tell him to grow up. Also, a little lesson for him. Even if he's blonde with blue eyes, it's still recessive. Dark hair and dark eyes tend to be dominant. If he's being this insecure, he may as well know it. And Jen0507 says, thank you. I come from a blonde-haired, green-eyed mother, but my dad was dark, so I'm dark. Blonde hair and blue eyes are recessive. I would joke back that it's not my fault that he was too dumb to pay attention in science class. If he thinks that cheating is fair game for a joke, then his intelligence sure is not great. And Your Little Ruth says, everyone went quiet either because they saw how inappropriate and unfunny it was, or because they thought that he might be serious. If he is teasing, then he needs to cut it out, apologize to his wife, and explain to his family that he wasn't serious. If he won't do that, then he needs to explain politely to his wife why he is worried that his child is not his. And he needs to be able to assure her convincingly that he is not cheating on her. Thieves think that everybody else steals. Adulterers think that everybody else cheats. And First Blackberry 6191 says, whoa, oh no, you're right, I felt that. Alright folks, and our next letter is titled, Will I Be a Jerk for Telling Everyone That I'm Not Bringing My Baby to Thanksgiving, Halloween, or Christmas this year? So I'm a 22-year-old female, and my husband, a 22-year-old male, had our first baby on April 1st. He is now 5 months. We just celebrated a family member's birthday, which was all fun. One of my husband's cousins kissed my baby, and they were all sick. They are almost 5. I have made it really clear that everyone washes their hands before holding my baby and no kisses. We had a giant Facebook post about it, which really blew up with the family. They didn't like it. But the long story short is that the aunt allowed the 4-year-old to kiss my baby, and now my baby is sick with a viral infection and has a rash from head to toe, including on his butt and genitals. Instead of everybody sticking up for my baby and telling her that she's not allowed to kiss the baby, they all said ah and started taking photos of it. I quickly pointed out that the 4-year-old was coughing, sniffling, and sneezing, and everybody tried to gaslight me into telling me that I was being a party pooper at the birthday party, to the point where I just took my baby and I sat in the corner. Nobody was impressed with me keeping the baby to myself. I went ahead and I let the aunt know that I had to take the baby to the pediatrician and asked what the 4-year-old had to expedite the treatment or anything for the rash and his symptoms. She insisted that the 4-year-old wasn't sick and had allergies. Now my baby is sick and I don't want to go to any of their events knowing that they're just going to do the same stuff and gaslight me and my husband. I told my husband that he can deal with his side of the family if he wants to go, but I'm not going to go to any with my baby. I could potentially be overreacting because I don't have anybody on my side of the family. Therefore, it would just be me and my baby at home celebrating XYZ holiday. Would I be overreacting or a jerk if I stood my ground and kept my baby and me at home, or would I be ruining the holidays as everybody else would suggest if I told them that we weren't going? All right, folks, what do you think?
Absolutely not the jerk. The fact is that they are so unconcerned for your baby's well-being is deeply concerning. I'm having a hard time even just like wrapping my head around how they can see that OP's child is, miserable with this infection, and they're just like, oh, it's no big deal, like we're gonna treat you. Like, small children especially have very weak immune systems and need to be sheltered as much as possible from communicable diseases, and the fact that they have absolutely no regard and just want to pass the baby around like there's some kind of toy is just despicable.
Well, the thing is that babies do get sick, and that's eventually going to happen. But OP was trying to protect their child from getting sick and explain to them that they didn't want anyone holding or kissing or touching the baby right now, right? So the baby's only 6 months old. I'm surprised that the baby hasn't been sick before this, but I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the schedule for children getting their first colds and stuff like that are. I do know that it's recommended that kids, you try to keep them as healthy as possible for as long as possible. They're still building up their immune systems, and things like the flu, for instance, can be really deadly to a baby, right? Because their immune systems aren't developed enough to stop them from getting horribly sick. And so I do think it's recommended, and I don't know for sure. I've only heard things here that you do keep your baby as healthy as possible for as long as possible, right?
Yeah, well, and recommendations and guidelines have changed. I think there's a lot more knowledge now around the not kissing babies thing and whatnot. And I understand a lot of people, well, that's not how it was done in my day. Our understanding is better now about how diseases are spread and how deadly they can be. And even if there's a small chance, the goal is to keep children from dying unnecessarily.
Well, and the 4-year-old, they're still a very small child who's also still developing their immune system, right? And I mean, even it's a little bit different with such a young child because they could potentially carry, some kind of disease or virus that could give the baby a really hard time. And maybe an adult with a developed immune system is going to have an easier time at, less of a chance at sending something to the child, the baby. But I think that people should have just respected OP's wishes.
Well, they should have. And it doesn't matter if you think it's just allergies. If your kid is displaying signs of illness, then you keep them away from the baby.
Yeah. But let me know what you folks think. So anyhow, take care and good luck. All right, folks, it is tea time. Grab your beverages of choice. I've got some tea right here, and Amber, she has a joke.
What day do headwear connoisseurs look forward to?
Oh, headwear connoisseurs look forward to Hat Day.
Hatter Day.
Hatter Day? Well, I wasn't even done answering, but I mean, fine. We can do it that way.
I was just, you were so close, so I just...
Amber was so excited because I was like, Hat Day, and she's like, no, Hatter Day, Brian.
Just one letter off.
Yes, I was.
And it's Make a Hat Day, and also National Cheese Toast Day.
Yeah, well, it would have been better if Hat Day had fallen on a Saturday, but apparently it hadn't.
Yeah.
Hat tint. So make sure to go make yourself a hat and some cheese toast. Then you can have some cheese toast. Maybe make a hat out of cheese toast. That's the real way to celebrate today. And I have Mega Mint. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for watching. Happy Manic Monday, folks. I hope your Monday is off to a great start. Amber, we need some kind of moral advice and or guidance, and please have it on babies and preferably not babies in space.
Keep sick people away from babies?
Sure. And also, don't put babies in space. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.